A DNA report landed on a geneticist's desk in Davis, California, and it demolished everything the cat fancy believed about one of its most celebrated breeds, the Egyptian Mau, that sleek, spotted, green-eyed cat plastered across breed magazines with hieroglyphics in the background wasn't what anyone thought it was. Not even close.
Contained within this elegant
The spotted coat, the mascara lines sweeping back from those gooseberry green eyes, the dorsal stripe running like a dark river from skull to tail tip. For decades, breeders sold the Egyptian Mau as a living artifact, a cat unchanged since the pharaohs, pulled straight from tomb paintings in the Valley of the Kings, and dropped into your living room. It's a gorgeous story. Breed magazines printed it, show judges repeated it, owners believed it with their whole hearts. And the cat itself, muscular, fast, with those unmistakable spots, looked the part so completely that nobody thought to check.
The assumption was that if a cat looks like the cats in ancient Egyptian art, it must be descended from those cats. That's not how genetics works. That's not how anything works.
To understand how the Egyptian Mau's origin story was built, and who built it, you need to go back. Not to ancient Egypt, not to the tombs, to a crumbling apartment on Via Margutta in Rome in 1953. Natalie Trubetskoy was a Russian princess with no country. Born into aristocracy, swept out by revolution, bounced through embassies and refugee camps across Europe until she landed in Rome after the Second World War. She was broke, she was stateless, and she was about to receive a gift that would reshape the history of an entire breed. The story, her version of it, goes like this. A diplomatic contact, possibly connected to the Egyptian embassy in Rome, presented her with a silver-spotted kitten. The kitten's name was Baba, and Trubetskoy took one look at that spotted coat and saw ancient Egypt staring back at her.
Every breeder knows the Trubetskoy story. She's our founding mother. She saved these cats from disappearing. That's what we were always told.
Trubetskoy didn't just fall in love with a cat. She fell in love with an idea. She bred Baba to a smoke-colored male she'd acquired through the same diplomatic channels. Then she bred the offspring. Within 2 years, she had a small colony of spotted cats on Via Margutta, silver and bronze with those distinctive gooseberry eyes. And she'd already begun telling people these were the direct descendants of the cats worshipped in ancient Egypt. The tomb paintings at Beni Hassan, dating to 1900 BC, show spotted cats sitting beneath chairs, catching birds, wearing collars. Trubetskoy pointed to these images and said, "These are my cats, the same spots, the same build. 4,000 years of unbroken lineage, sitting on my kitchen floor in Rome." Was she lying? Probably not. She likely believed every word. A displaced princess, stripped of her homeland, her title, her wealth, finding in a spotted Egyptian cat a lineage as ancient and noble as the one she'd lost. The psychology isn't complicated. The genetics, though, the genetics tell a very different story. But that part comes later. In 1953, nobody was sequencing cat DNA. Nobody was running microsatellite marker panels on pedigree breeds. What mattered was the story. And Trubetskoy's story was irresistible.
She created the breed myth at the same time she created the breed itself. They were inseparable from day one. The cats and the story grew up together.
In 1956, Natalie Trubetskoy made her move. She packed up 3 cats, Baba's descendants, 2 silver females and 1 bronze male, and boarded a ship bound for New York. She had almost nothing. No money, no connections in America, no kennel facilities waiting, just 3 spotted cats, and a founding myth polished to a mirror shine. She called her breeding program the Fatima Cattery. The name itself carried the exotic weight she wanted, something that whispered of deserts and dynasties. And American cat fanciers ate it up. The Cat Fanciers Association granted the Egyptian Mau breed recognition in 1968. The breed standard described the Mau as the only natural domesticated breed of spotted cat. Natural meaning not created through human crossbreeding, but preserved through millennia of natural selection. That word, natural, did enormous work. It told buyers they weren't purchasing a man-made breed. They were purchasing a relic. Why would anyone? The spots were real. The mascara lines were real. The speed, Egyptian mouse clock at 30 miles per hour, the fastest domestic cat breed, was real. Everything about the cat screamed ancient pedigree, except the one thing you can't fake. The one thing that doesn't care about registration papers or show judges or beautiful stories told by displaced princesses. The DNA. And when someone finally thought to check it, what they found didn't just challenge the myth, it demolished it. Through the 1970s and 80s, the Egyptian Mau became one of the most sought-after cats in American show halls. Judges loved the spots, buyers loved the backstory, and the cats themselves, athletic, loyal, fiercely bonded to their owners, earned every ribbon they won. At the Louisville Cat Show in 1981, a silver Mau named Fatima's Silver Star took Best in Show, and the photograph made the cover of Cat Fancy magazine. The caption read, "The Pharaoh's cat lives again."
That was our peak moment. The breed had arrived. Every serious cattery in America wanted Mau bloodlines. Waiting lists stretched 18 months.
But behind the rosettes and the magazine covers, a problem was building. A genetic problem that no amount of show success could mask. And it had been there since the very beginning, since Trubetskoy stepped off that ship in 1956 with 3 cats. 3 cats. The entire foundation of the Egyptian Mau breed in the Western world rested on 3 animals, 2 silver females and 1 bronze male. Every registered Egyptian Mau in the CFA's stud book traced back to those 3 cats from Via Marguda.
Every generation, you're reshuffling the same limited deck of alleles.
The numbers were grim. By the 1990s, Egyptian Mouse showed some of the lowest heterozygosity scores of any pedigree cat breed, lower than Siamese, lower than Persians, lower than breeds people openly worried about. The gene pool wasn't just small, it was a puddle. Breeders saw it in their catteries before the geneticist put numbers to it. Litter sizes dropped, kitten mortality crept upward. A pattern of asthma and allergic conditions ran through certain bloodlines like a thread you couldn't pull out, because it was woven into the foundation.
I lost 3 kittens in 1 year to the same cardiac defect. 3. From different litters, but the same sire line. That's when I started asking questions nobody wanted to hear.
The questions Yasmin Khoury was asking in Louisville, Dr. Rebecca Osman was answering in Davis. In 2008, Osman's team at the UC Davis Veterinary Genetics Laboratory launched a feline genomics project. They collected DNA samples from 31 cat breeds, plus feral cat populations from 12 countries, including Egypt. The goal was straightforward: map the genetic relationships between pedigree breeds and their supposed ancestral populations. For the Egyptian Mau, this meant answering the question Trubetskoy had answered with a story, but now answering it with science. Osman's team ran microsatellite marker panels on 47 registered Egyptian mouse and compared them against DNA from 214 feral cats collected from the streets of Cairo, Alexandria, and the Nile Delta. The assumption everyone expected the data to confirm was that the Mau would cluster genetically with those Egyptian street cats. Same country, same spotted phenotype, same lineage, right?
I ran the analysis 3 times. I asked a colleague to run it independently. The results were identical every time.
The Egyptian Mau did not cluster with Egyptian street cats. Not close, not even neighboring on the phylogenetic tree. The Mau's genetic signature placed it firmly among Western Mediterranean and Turkish cat populations. Cats from the Eastern Mediterranean basin, yes, but not from Egypt. The feral cats roaming modern Cairo were more distantly related to the registered Egyptian Mau than a Turkish van was. Read that again. A Turkish van, a breed from eastern Turkey, shared more genetic material with the Egyptian Mau than the street cats of Cairo did.
The sample sizes were within standard parameters. The breed community didn't reject the method.
Uncomfortable is one word for it. Devastating is another. If the Egyptian Mau wasn't genetically Egyptian, then the entire brand identity, the pharaoh's cat, the living artifact, 4,000 years of unbroken lineage, was a marketing story. A beautiful, effective, completely unsupported marketing story. And the bottleneck made it worse, because now the breed wasn't just built on a myth. It was built on a myth and 3 cats. A shrinking gene pool wrapped in a fabricated pedigree. The DNA didn't care about show ribbons or CFA registration papers or that photograph on the cover of Cat Fancy magazine.
When I saw the heterozygosity data, actually saw the numbers stacked against other breeds, I couldn't unsee it. My cats were beautiful. Their genetics were suffocating.
The breed establishment fought back. Registration bodies questioned the studies. Show judges kept awarding mouse as if nothing had changed. But inside the catteries, in the litter boxes and the vet bills and the cardiac screens, the truth was doing what truth always does. It was waiting, patient as a gene, quiet as a recessive allele, and absolutely, completely, inescapably there. The first real challenge to the Mau's closed stud book came not from a geneticist, but from a breeder named Kathy Rowan, who, in 1980, did something that horrified the purist community. She went to Cairo. She walked the streets, and she brought back feral spotted cats, actual Egyptian street cats, to breed into the Mau gene pool. The program was called the Indian Line. The name was deliberate misdirection. Indian to distinguish these imports from the original Trubetskoy bloodlines. And the resistance was fierce.
Introducing street cats into a pedigree breed is not preservation. It's contamination. The breed standard exists for a reason.
Contamination. That word landed hard, because here was the irony nobody in the breed establishment wanted to face. The very cats rejected as contamination were, genetically speaking, closer to actual Egyptian cats than any registered Mau in the stud book. The pure breed wasn't Egyptian, the contaminants were. Dr. Osman's team tested the Indian Line imports against both the registered Mau population and the Cairo feral cats. The results redrew the map. Indian Line cats showed significantly higher heterozygosity, more genetic diversity, more resilience, more of the raw material a breed needs to survive long-term. And their mitochondrial DNA? It clustered closer to Egyptian feral populations than anything in the original Trubetskoy bloodlines.
The imports were the genetic rescue the breed needed. They brought back diversity that had been lost since 1956. The data was unambiguous.
But acceptance came slowly. Some breed registries allowed Indian Line cats into the stud book with restrictions. Others refused entirely. Breeders split into camps, those who followed the data and those who guarded the myth. And for years, the argument wasn't really about genetics at all. It was about identity.
Admitting the Indian Line cats were necessary meant admitting the original bloodlines were in trouble. And admitting that meant questioning Trubetskoy's whole story. People weren't ready.
What broke the deadlock wasn't a study or a show ruling. It was the vet bills. By the 2000s, breeders who worked exclusively with original Trubetskoy lines reported escalating health costs, Cardiac screenings, asthma management, reduced litter viability. Breeders who'd incorporated Indian line genetics reported the opposite: healthier cats, larger litters, fewer emergency visits. The numbers didn't argue, they just accumulated. Gradually, grudgingly, the breed community shifted. The Cat Fanciers Association accepted Indian line Egyptian mouse for full championship status. European registries followed. By 2015, most serious Mau breeders had at least some Indian line ancestry in their programs, not because they wanted to, because their cats needed it to survive.
I don't think of it as the myth dying. I think of it as the breed finally getting a real history, one that can actually protect it.
And that brings us back to Natalie Trubetskoy, the displaced princess on Via Marguta, with a spotted cat on her kitchen floor and a story forming in her mind. Was she a fraud? That's the wrong question. She was a refugee who'd lost everything: her country, her title, her family's wealth, her place in the world. And she found in a spotted cat something she recognized. Not an ancient Egyptian artifact, something more personal than that. She found a creature as displaced as she was, and she gave it an origin story grand enough to guarantee it would never be overlooked. Think about what she actually accomplished. A stateless woman with no money, no institutional support, no scientific training, created an entire breed from 3 cats. She built a mythology so compelling that it held for 60 years. She convinced the largest cat registry in the world to grant breed recognition based on a story she'd constructed in a Roman apartment. The spotted coat is real, a natural phenotype produced by the tabby gene, shaped by selective pressure across the Mediterranean basin over thousands of years. The speed is real, 30 miles per hour, the fastest of any domestic breed. The loyalty is real. Mau owners describe a bond more canine than feline, a cat that follows you room to room and greets you at the door. What isn't real is the unbroken line to the pharaohs. What isn't real is the 4,000-year pedigree. What isn't real is the word natural in the breed standard, because every Egyptian Mau alive today is the product of one woman's deliberate, passionate, extraordinarily successful breeding program. That's not natural selection. That's Natalie Trubetskoy's selection. And the truth? The truth is better. A princess without a country saved a cat without a pedigree. She gave it a name, a mythology, a future. And when the mythology finally fell apart, the breed she built was strong enough, just barely thanks to those Indian line imports, to survive on its own merit. The Egyptian Mau doesn't need pharaohs. It never did. It just needed someone stubborn enough to look at a spotted cat on a Roman kitchen floor and see something worth fighting for.